Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis, and today we are wrapping up our discussion of comfort food. We started with TV shows, we moved on to movies. Today we're talking about albums. These are the things that I consume on a regular basis just to feel like everything's okay in the world, right? It is the aesthetic equivalent of having a good meatloaf and mashed potato dinner, right? I'm not looking for haute cuisine. I'm not looking for a five-star restaurant here. I don't want a fine dining experience. I just want some good, solid food, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about comfort food. We started, like I said a second ago, we started with TV shows. We went on to movies. Today we're talking about music. And I will tell you that generating today's list was harder because I don't tend to treat music as comfort food as much. And so with the TV shows and the movies, I just sat back in a chair and I thought, well, okay, what could I do? And I just started bing, 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 coming up with candidates, right? I didn't have to actually, go up and down the stacks and look at the titles to remind myself. With music, I had to do that. With music, I had to look at it. It's like, okay, if I'm looking at this shelf, what would, oh, yeah, that one. Oh, that one. And it occupies a slightly different place in my head. But I'm still listening to these for the same reason that I'm watching Sneakers yet again, or I'm watching Barney Miller yet again. These are albums that make me feel comfortable, okay? And because we are talking about comfort rather than relative quality, I'm not saying these are my favorite albums. I'm not saying these are the best albums or anything like that. We're not going to worry about the subjectivity notice. Even though I am talking about this as if it is a top 10, so that if nothing else, I've got an opportunity to flog some Schofferhofer, because if you like Hefeweizen beer and grapefruit soda, you'll love Schofferhofer. That's good beer. Schofferhofer is the unofficial sponsor of Papa Nick's Music's Top 10 series. And one of these days, they're gonna notice that I've been doing this, and they're gonna send me some. Anyway, I'm presenting this as a top 10, but I'm not. Don't read anything into the ranking other than we've got a rough ordering based on how comforting I find the music to be. But the distance between 1 and 10 is, you got to measure it with a micrometer. Okay? Cool. Now, as with the TV shows and to a lesser extent with the movies, I've got a few things that I want to put in here that I want to talk about because they are comfort food. They are good examples of comfort food. I just couldn't quite squeeze them into the top 10. So I've got 3 runners-up and an honorable mention. Runner-up number 1 is from 1997, Ben Folds Five's Whatever and Ever Amen. Runner-up number 2 from 1999, we have, there we go, almost dropped it. From 1999, we have Lost and Gone Forever by Guster. And then 2002, we have Laugh by Keller Williams. I love all 3 of these albums. For essentially the same reason. For a period in my life around 2005 to 2010, in that area, I don't want to. You're not my therapist, so we're not gonna go into detail here. But I went through a series of challenges that forced me to reevaluate choices I had made in my life, decisions that I had made, this sort of stuff. And one of the things that got me through that was listening to these 3 albums. I don't listen to them as much anymore, so they don't really make the top 10. But when I do listen to them, they do comfort me. They are a salve to my soul in a way that not all music is. And so it's worth talking about them, even though I don't listen to them often enough for them to be included in the top 10. My honorable mention goes to Ellis and Tom from 1974 by Antonio Carlos Tom Jobim and Elis Regina, and I apologize for mispronouncing names. This is an album that I heard for the first time maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. Relatively recent addition to my catalog. And I love it. I just don't have the history with it that I have with most of the rest of these albums. Even though this is from, originally it was released in 1974, for crying out loud. You would think I would have been familiar with it, but it's a recent acquisition. If I'm doing this type of a countdown 10 years from now, it's going to be in the top 10. So, honorable mention goes to Ellis and Tom. I love this album. Okay, now for the top 10 proper. We're going to go through this pretty quickly because I'm going to make the same comment about all 10 of these. These are albums that I listen to, even though I know them backwards and forwards. I have listened to them enough that I've memorized every individual note, every beat, every chord, every inch of every melody line. I know these albums. I may not know all of the background. I may not know who the performers are, what microphones they used in the studio, that kind of nonsense. I won't know that, but I know this music. It is all music that hits me in a very deep, profound way that inspires a reaction in me that is peace and calm and serenity, even though a lot of this music is rocking. So I'm going to be saying the same thing about all of them, so I'm going to get through it. I hope I'm going to get through the top 10 pretty quickly. Coming in at number 10, from 1973, we have Tower of Power's self-titled Tower of Power. What is hip alone? Soul Vaccination. But So Very Hard to Go. Oh my God. I love So Very Hard to Go. Wonderful song. But the whole album is just fantastic. And I can listen to this thing and, I swear, it's got the power to heal broken bones. I love Tower of Power by Tower of Power. Coming in at number 9. I love Chris Isaak. And I particularly love Baja Sessions. I'm laughing to myself because I had to think about this for a second. I knew I wanted to put some Chris Isaak on here because Chris Isaak does this. His music is emotionally and spiritually healing to me. It is something that if I am feeling stressed, I listen to Chris Isaak and it gives me an even horizon line. And so I knew I'd have some Chris Isaak on here. And I'm looking at the titles and I'm thinking, okay, Heart-Shaped World, but San Francisco Days, no, I really want Baja Sessions, but in the back of my mind I'm thinking, yeah, but I can't have that because it's not a real album. It's a compilation. It's a re-recording. And then it's like, no, screw it. I'm not ranking the albums here. I can include a compilation if I want, and it's not a compilation. It's old songs re-recorded with the new lead guitarist. But still, I love Baja Sessions. I love this. The spirit of this album is wonderfully positive and wonderfully healing. I love Chris Isaak's Baja Sessions. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. Oh, lovely, lovely album. Okay, coming in at number 8. I told you I had some rockers on here, and one of them is Get the Knack by The Knack. This is up-tempo. I don't think there's anybody out there who listens to My Sharona and thinks, ooh, there's spiritual healing in that song, but there is. I love this album. This album makes me feel like all is right with the world. Every note is exactly where it needs to be, and all of the pieces add up, and it is satisfying. Listening to this album is every bit as emotionally satisfying as looking at a completed jigsaw puzzle, if you're into jigsaw puzzles. I love it. I love this album. This is a meatloaf dinner. Get the Knack by The Knack from 1979. Coming in at number 7. I love Chet Atkins. And Chet Atkins is one of those musicians that it doesn't matter really what you pick. It's going to have the same effect on me. Yeah, okay, I'm going to qualify that here in a second. I would say the same thing about some YouTube guitarists. Kent Nishimura, for example. Oh my God. If you are not familiar with Kent Nishimura, check him out. Trust me. You'll thank me later. But Chet Atkins, I'm using Almost Alone here, but I could use any of his albums. The only thing that he has a tendency to do is a lot of times he really overproduces his recordings. Brings in way too much in the way of strings and vocal choruses, choirs, and children singing, and which is the reason why I've picked Almost Alone. For the bulk of this album, this is just Chet by himself on his guitar, which is why that's where the title Almost Alone comes from. It's a wonderful album, and I love this album. This is a stress reducer for me. It is a reset button on the day. Love Chet Atkins. Almost Alone from 1996. Strongly recommended. Coming in at number 6. I love Michael Nesmith. And I love his weird ass mixed media thought experiment projects. The Prison, the Garden, and the Ocean, particularly the Garden. This music is wonderful. The use of instrumental music makes it easier to appreciate this work the way Nesmith wants you to, where you're reading the book and listening to the music at the same time, because you don't have vocals in the music, so that you don't have two different vocal expressions that you're trying to experience simultaneously. Very difficult to do. I tried with the Prison a few times to do it the way I'm supposed to, and I eventually gave up on it. It was much easier to do with the Garden, but still the music itself is worth the price of admission. I listen to it by itself frequently, and everything is all right in the world when I'm listening to the Garden. So 1994, The Garden by Michael Nesmith. Okay, coming in at number 5. This is one of those albums. I had my runners-up that I mentioned, period in late the late aughts, that I wrestled with a few things, and there were several musical works that helped me get through that. This is one of those, but this had a little bit more staying power. This is one of the albums that I come back to repeatedly. From here on out, we are dealing with albums that I listen to, every couple weeks. I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to this album. I loved this album so much. It was the first album that I had ever heard by this particular recording artist, and I thought, I found a recording artist that I really love. And so I went out and bought a couple more of his albums, and no. This was a different album for him. It was a departure for him, and I liked the departure. His regular stuff is okay. I'm not saying it's bad. It doesn't strike a chord in me the way El Turista does. And so I'm not really a fan of Josh Rouse. I'm a fan of El Turista. I love this album. Every couple of weeks I come back to it, and I love El Turista by Josh Rouse. I Will Live on Islands. I love that song. Duerme, I love it. Lemon Tree is good. The only version of Cotton Eye Joe that I will ever think of as a good song. It's a great album. It is number 5, El Turista by Josh Rouse from 2010. Excuse me. Okay. Now, keep in mind, I'm not talking about these in terms of quality. I'm not saying that El Turista is a better album than The Garden, which in turn was a better album than Almost Alone, which in turn was better than Get the Neck. No, I'm talking about these in terms of how much comfort I get when I listen to them. What is the ranking order? When I'm feeling stressed and I want to listen to something that will soothe me, that will make me feel that all is right with the world, what order am I going to pull these off the stack in? That's what I'm going by. So when I say that my number 4 album on this list is Pet Sounds, this does not mean that I've got 3 albums that I think are better than Pet Sounds on my list here. No, Pet Sounds is a classic. Pet Sounds is one of the best albums ever made by anybody, bar none. So, don't go there. We didn't have to do the subjectivity notice because we're not going there. But Pet Sounds is a balm. It is a musical balm. I listen to this to remind myself of what music can be, what it can do, what it can accomplish. I love, from the opening plucked string intro of Wouldn't It Be Nice? Boy, that was awfully awkwardly worded. But from that intro to Wouldn't It Be Nice all the way to the dogs barking at the end of Caroline No, this is just, it is a tour de force. And one of the reasons why I'm putting all of these up in CD is that having this on CD is fantastic because I don't have to get up in the middle to flip the flipping record over. This is a wonderful experience. I love listening to Pet Sounds. It always makes me feel good to listen to Pet Sounds. Number 4 on my list of comfort foods. Okay, number 3. I'm not saying this is a better album than Pet Sounds. Stop. But number 3, I've got Joe Jackson's Body and Soul. There is something about the sound of this album, the way this album was recorded. Every album that Joe Jackson did in the 80s, he did something differently. He switched up the musicians, he switched up the way that was recorded, he switched, and the thing that he switched up here was that this album was recorded largely live in a music hall, in like a concert venue. And they did overdubs and stuff like that, but the bulk of it was like okay, let's do a take of this song. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we want to redo that one. They did the vocals separately and all of that, but the bulk of it was recorded in this concert venue, and as a result, it has a natural reverb and ambiance to it that is just fantastic. I love listening to this album. The echoes and the reverberations are just fantastic. This is, it's like sitting in the world's most comfortable chair, and it's just like, oh, so that's how comfortable a chair can be. Well, yeah, but this is how good music can sound. I love Joe Jackson's Body and Soul. Number 3 on my comfort food list. Number 2. There are a few things that I've learned about myself as I've been doing these videos over the past couple of years. One is that I like to talk more than I thought I did. But one is that I really like the Alan Parsons Project more than I ever thought I did. When I first started this little series of impromptu thought experiments, I would have put Alan Parsons Project maybe in my top 20 recording artists. Now they're like top 5. I mean, I love Alan Parsons Project. I particularly love Eye in the Sky. This is one of those albums, again, this is, it's like 3 Days of the Condor. It's like Barney Miller, Sneakers, Barney Miller. This, every few months, I gotta listen to. Every few weeks, I gotta listen to it. Once again, I gotta listen to this thing. It is part of my routine, regular aesthetic maintenance I have to stick this in every once in a while, give it a good listen, and then I can move on to other things. It's just a way of resetting all my buttons. I love Eye in the Sky by Alan Parsons Project. Ultimate comfort food here. But my number one comfort food album, which when I started thinking about this, it kind of surprises me a little bit because I like jazz, but I'm not particularly well informed about it. I don't know a lot about it. I am by no means my opinion on what is good and what is not good in the world of jazz should not be. Do not go by my recommendations. I mean, my tastes in jazz, like in classical, are very pedestrian. But there's something about Getz Gilberto that I just love. I love bossa nova music in general. That's one of the reasons why I've got Ellis and Tom working its way into the lineup here. I love Joao Gilberto's guitar playing. I love that breathy quality that Stan Getz has. It goes so well with this music. Oh, it's like virtually any other style of any other genre of music. I'm going to be listening to Stan Getz and I'm going to be thinking to myself, man, I wish he had taken some lessons. But here it's like, oh yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect fit. Fantastic. I love this music. This is, what I've been saying about all of these records. It is a balm. It soothes. It cleanses my palate. It resets. If I feel like I've been listening to weird stuff and my senses are skewed and I'm not sure what's good anymore. Okay, put that in. Oh, okay, now I got it. I got my horizon line back. I've got my level footing back. I've got my foundation back. The ultimate comfort food album is Getz Gilberto by Stan Getz and Joao Gilberto, along with Antonio Carlos Jobim. Love it. Excuse me. Try not to choke to death. And those are my comfort food albums. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are the albums that you think of as comfort food? Drop those comments down below. I always love hearing from you. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd click the like button. While you're down there clicking the like button, if you've not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me. So thank you very much. If you do subscribe, go ahead and click the bell for notifications. The YouTube folks appreciate that, so on their behalf, I thank you. And again, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope that the rest of your day is jubilant. See you soon.